Walt Disney's Snow White remake was supposed to be a grand triumph for the company, a cornerstone in their growing collection of live-action adaptations. Disney had high hopes. The star power of Rachel Zegler, a fresh face in Hollywood, combined with the legacy of the beloved animated classic, seemed like the perfect formula for success. But instead, the movie bombed. The box office disaster wasn't just about bad reviews, it sparked a full-blown controversy. As the dust settles, one question remains. Is Rachel Zegler's career over, or is this just the beginning of her downfall? When Snow White hit theaters, the expectations were sky-high. Disney had made a massive investment in the live-action remake, with hopes that it would follow in the footsteps of The Jungle Book and Beauty and the Beast. But things didn't go according to plan. From the outset, the film's performance was lackluster, and by the time it left theaters, it was a full-blown flop. Critics weren't kind, but it wasn't just the reviews that hurt the film, it was the reaction from fans. The Snow White remake had alienated its core audience. Longtime Disney fans, especially those who loved the original 1937 animated classic, were deeply disappointed. Many felt the new version betrayed the charm and magic of the original, replacing the timeless story with a modern, politically correct agenda. And when it comes to Snow White, fans didn't just see this as another remake. They saw it as an attack on a piece of Disney's history. The box office numbers were telling. Families, who had traditionally been Disney's most loyal demographic, stayed away in droves. Parents didn't want to take their kids to a movie that seemed more focused on pushing a new agenda than telling a compelling, magical story. As a result, Snow White barely made a dent, and the fallout extended beyond the film itself. It was now personal. Rachel Zegler, who had been positioned as Disney's next big star, now found herself at the center of the storm. When you're at the center of a controversy this big, you have two choices. You either double down or apologize. And what did Rachel Zegler do? She apologized. But her apology raised more questions than answers. It's a classic Hollywood move. Issue a half-hearted apology but leave enough room to stand by your original stance. Zegler's apology was wrapped in contradictions. She admitted she didn't handle the criticism well and said she should have reacted differently. But then, in the very same breath, she defended her position, claiming that in 2025 a strong woman would remain silent when faced with toxic critics. This is where things get complicated. Zegler's apology wasn't so much about admitting fault, it was more about preserving her image. It felt like an attempt to calm the storm while still holding on to her beliefs about the film. And this is where the real problem lies. If Zegler truly wanted to win back the public's favor, she needed to take full accountability for how she handled the backlash. Instead, she danced around it. By framing her apology with a message about remaining silent and standing by her original comments, Zegler wasn't actually apologizing for the right reasons. She wasn't owning up to the content of her comments or addressing how she'd alienated Disney's core audience. Instead, it felt more like damage control, a tactic to keep Hollywood studios interested in her, even if only for the short term. But it gets worse when you see how Zegler continued her defense. She then went on to blame societal issues, saying the real problem was sexism in the entertainment industry and how talented actresses from all backgrounds were going unnoticed. While her intentions might have been to shed light on an important issue, her timing was all wrong. Hollywood wasn't ready for this kind of messaging in the wake of a massive box office failure. Seemed like Zegler was using these broader societal problems as a cover for her own inability to handle the backlash. So, how has Hollywood responded to Zegler's controversial comments and shaky apology? The answer is clear: they're distancing themselves. Truth is, Zegler's star has already started to fade. Major studios, the ones that once saw her as the future face of Disney, are now looking elsewhere. Hollywood is a tough industry, and when you mix controversy with commercial failure, it's a dangerous combination. Zegler may have gotten a pass early on, but after Snow White's catastrophic performance, her options in mainstream Hollywood are limited. Instead of landing big-budget films or high-profile roles, Zegler's career has taken a sharp downturn. Her upcoming project with Marissa Tomei, while a nice opportunity, is hardly the breakout role she once hoped for. The film, expected to be a low-budget indie project, will barely make a splash in theaters. If anything, this is more of a career sidestep than a comeback. But here's the real kicker. As Zegler moves further away from major studio projects, her name is beginning to fade from Hollywood's spotlight. Studios are hesitant to sign her to lead any big productions because they don't want to risk another PR disaster. Zegler's troubles go beyond her handling of the Snow White controversy. The larger issue lies with how Hollywood, and particularly Disney, is alienating its audience by pushing narratives that prioritize modern-day politics over storytelling. This trend isn't exclusive to Zegler or Snow White. We've seen it in other big-budget remakes and sequels over the past few years. But what Snow White did differently was attempt to deconstruct a cultural touchstone, a beloved classic. Fans of the original movie weren't just upset by the film's changes, they were angry that the creators seemed to actively mock or reject the source material. Disney's move to modernize and reinvent these classic films often results in alienating the very audiences who grew up with them. Fans were never asking for a complete overhaul of their favorite stories, they just wanted a fresh take that still respected the core of what made those films great. But instead of honoring the original, Disney seemed to look down on it, almost embarrassed by its history. And when Zegler added fuel to the fire with her comments about the character of Snow White, calling out the original film as problematic, it only deepened the divide between the studio and its core audience. This mindset, where Hollywood attempts to force its own modern views onto traditional stories, has turned into a trend that is now backfiring. Fans are rejecting these new versions, and studios are finding themselves facing increasingly hostile reactions from viewers who feel disrespected. But here's the thing, Disney isn't learning from their mistakes. The industry is so focused on pushing its agenda that it's forgotten how to simply tell a good story. And the result is box office bombs like Snow White. It's impossible to ignore how far Rachel Zegler has fallen in such a short time. Just a few years ago, she was hailed as one of Hollywood's brightest young stars. Now she's picking up minor roles in low-budget indie films, far from the mainstream spotlight she once inhabited. The shift in her career is stark, but it's also telling. Zegler's upcoming film with Marissa Tomei, a project with a budget of just a few million, doesn't exactly scream Hollywood's next big thing. Instead, it feels more like a last-ditch attempt to stay relevant. Truth is, Zegler is fighting to maintain her career, but without the right backing, she's unlikely to make much of an impact in the mainstream anymore. The era of Disney's live-action remakes, in which Zegler was supposed to be a major player, has come to an end. Snow White's failure wasn't just a bump in the road for her, it marked a turning point. The bigger question is whether she can reinvent herself outside of Disney, or if she'll remain stuck in the indie circuit. This isn't just about Rachel Zegler. It's part of a larger pattern within Hollywood that seems to be repeating itself. Studios push forward with big-budget films that fail to connect with their core audiences. When those films flop, stars make vague apologies and the cycle continues. Hollywood executives, however, don't seem to face the same consequences. In fact, many of the decision-makers who pushed forward with these risky strategies continue to rise in the ranks, despite their failures. Meanwhile, the stars who are seen as troublemakers or who fail to deliver commercial success often see their careers stall or even collapse. At this point, Disney is at a crossroads. Their live-action remake strategy, once thought to be a cash cow, has been increasingly criticized for its lack of creativity and respect for the original material. Will Disney learn from the failure of Snow White? Or will they continue to push for more remakes that risk alienating their audience? The truth is, Disney has some soul-searching to do. If they want to win back their loyal fans, they need to approach these remakes with more respect for the source material and less emphasis on political agendas. As for Rachel Zegler, her path forward is unclear. She's at a critical juncture in her career. Can she bounce back from the damage caused by Snow White? The truth is, it's possible, but it's going to take a lot more than just an apology. Zegler will need to rebuild her career with real accountability and humility. Hollywood loves a comeback story, but it's up to her to prove she can learn from this experience and rise from the ashes of her career. What do you think? Can Rachel bounce back from this, or is her Hollywood career over for good? And what does Disney need to do to fix their live-action remake strategy? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm really interested to hear what you think. If you enjoyed today's deep dive, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace out.